This game breakdown was brought to you by Evolve Terminal.
Hello everyone, I'm Nordegraf, and this is Game Breakdown, and today we'll be talking about a DLC for a game called Moonlighter, the Between Dimensions DLC. You start this DLC right after finishing the main game. It adds a dungeon that is 10 new levels. It has one new set of armor, one new set for each type of weapon, that is sword and shield, big sword, spear, fist, and bow. It adds 5 new mini-bosses, which I won't be showing so I do not spoil for you, and one new big boss, and a bunch of new enemies, and a couple new special weapons called pyro weapons that you can find around the new dungeon. They do special things when you charge them. I find that the pyro items themselves aren't quite better than the weapons you can craft, especially if you get them to the max level fully enchanted, but their special abilities, which by the way you spend life in order to use them, you activate them with your right click and then you can use them. They can be helpful. A couple of them lets them attack faster, but I found that sticking to the weapons that you can craft is better, to be honest. So you might want to try that. You do a lot more damage with those, but it's a preference, really. If you find a pirate weapon that you really like, feel free to use it. The new equipment that you can craft doesn't do anything different than the other equipment, aside from doing a lot more damage. A lot more damage that you're going to need when you get into the dungeon for the first time, because the new dungeon is really tough. Can only get in after the end game. Even with fully upgraded equipment, you're still gonna get your ass handed to you quite a bit. But as soon as you craft the new set of weapons, it's like night and day, to be honest. So I highly recommend getting on that as soon as you get into the game. The gameplay loop itself hasn't changed though. You still go into the dungeon, find items, then you take those items out of the dungeon and you can sell them at your store, which by the way gets a new extra upgrade. You can upgrade your shop further, which also adds a bunch of new things you can customize your shop with. However, something that did change a little bit is the grind for the new weapons. Specifically, to gather a couple of materials, you need to trade with this new NPC that you can find in the town. And you can trade specific items with this NPC for the items you need to craft the weapons, and that can take a bit. If you need to find items at the dungeons, you might need to backtrack to a couple of old dungeons, or you might just skip a day until he's selling for an item that you have a lot of. However, for those returning, there is also a new mechanic you can find in the dungeons. There is this vendor, which you can trade in slime chunks that you can find that drop from any enemy in the dungeon. He will trade you for pirate weapons. And there is also these little slimes in the dungeon itself that will trade slime chunks and money for potions. Also, every 2 levels into the dungeon, he can also unlock a portal for you, which acts as a shortcut. You might also find yourself finding items that you can only find in New Game Plus, like the rings. My favorites by far being the insta-kill ring and the health drain ring, which heals you every 3rd hit, which are quite helpful, and I'm sure will help you get through some of the bosses. However, while you can find some of them in the dungeon, a lot of those items, especially the pirate items, you cannot take out of the dungeon. They have a new curse, a curse which doesn't let you take items out of the dungeon. There was a glitch that did affect those items where you could take them out of the dungeon under specific situations, but I believe those have been patched out as well. However, feel free to use those items as much as you can while you're in the dungeon. Now let's wrap this up. This game does add new lore, and if you like Moonlighter's experience, you're probably gonna like this. You can probably beat this dungeon really fast if you're good. You don't even need, honestly, you don't even need any weapons. You just need to be good at dodging. The bosses are quite fun to fight and quite active. Sometimes they react weirdly and they might anticipate your movement, which can keep you on your toes sometimes. I want to say it took me around 8 to 10 hours to beat this DLC, which is not too much time, but you know, there's always New Game Plus, which makes it harder. I played the DLC on the normal mode. I haven't quite beaten the game on New Game Plus yet. Honestly, since all the big bugs have been patched out, I highly recommend this DLC. I wouldn't fully recommend before, but the devs have been working really hard at fixing the bugs that have been reported. The big ones have been patched out. A couple of items that wouldn't drop are now actually dropping. You can't get stuck in your store anymore, which was also a big bug. After selling your stuff at the store, the sheet for your profit wouldn't appear and you get stuck in the store and you had to restart the game, which made you lose that day, which sucks. Otherwise, the DLC is fantastic. Highly recommend it. The links to get it will be in the description, and I had a lot of fun with it. So I'll see you guys on the next game breakdown or whatever it is I'll do. Bye-bye.